afternoon. Hello. Welcome to Coffee and Convo with me, Amanny Mo. I hope you're well on this Wednesday. It's fine Wednesday. Just to say, if this is your first time joining us today, then welcome. If not, then you all know the drill. You can join in, ask your questions, and definitely I'll try and fit them in as and when I can. But also, please, if you are enjoying the series, do please like, share, leave a comment, because all the live comments actually don't come up afterwards. So it's really nice to get your support and feedback as always. So thank you very much for joining and supporting. It's absolutely lovely. We've got another guest coming up shortly. His name's David Bailey. He's a life coach. He also does hypnotherapy, but he's focusing on his life coaching at the moment, and he's a really lovely guy. I'm going to speak to him in a moment. I should say that all the interviews that I've been doing here on Coffee and Convo are available on the IGTV account, so you can find everything there. We've got some great interviews. Ruby Turner, if you like music, Rosala, even Hayward last week, absolutely fantastic. But also we've had footballers, we've had chefs, you name it. We've had all kinds of people on as well. And the idea behind Coffee and Convo is really just to have a casual conversation, but to kind of open our minds, open our hearts to conversations, to subjects, to possibly uncomfortable things sometimes. And the reason behind that is we sometimes need to feel a bit uncomfortable to kind of progress, to grow, to understand, and I think it's important to start the conversation, no matter what that conversation is. So thank you so much, as always, for your support. It's lovely to see you here. And do feel free to comment afterwards as well once the videos are posted, because as I mentioned earlier, none of your live comments do pop up, unfortunately. But it's nice to know that David is here, and I'm going to bring him on right now. We're waiting for David, as I say, catch all of I think I've got about 18 interviews now on right here in Coffee and Convo. And there he is.
Hey, how you doing?
That's a nice mug. I've got mine.
Thank you. Yeah, I watched another rep. I was like, I better come prepared, because, yeah.
What have you got on the go there, David?
I've got I got bulletproof coffee on the go, just in case, just in case. Yeah. Are
you anticipating bullets? I mean, should I be concerned?
Well, yeah, we've got plexiglass in front of me, and I'm a wanted man.
Uh-oh. Now, I didn't know. Is there a reward? Because I might...
Yeah.
Oh, well, listen, thank you very much for joining me on Coffee and Convo. Now, I introduced you as a life coach, but I know you also do hypnotherapy, although you're focusing directly on the life coaching, which is brilliant. And you and I, we've known each other quite a long time, actually. I seem to know some really, really amazing, interesting people. Another reason to set up Coffee and Convo, I have to say. But although we didn't work together per se, we worked in the same...
Yeah, we worked around. Yeah, and we did... I remember, because I was working in the same... I was working over in movies where you were. So... Yeah, yes. And we had mutual friends, and yeah.
And we still have those mutual friends. I mean, we
do. We still have mutual. Yeah.
Just make that clear, from the offset. Yeah. So David and I used to work at Sky many, many years ago, and but it's always lovely to see your friends doing well and moving into different areas. And I mean, I know a lot of people that have retrained, diversified. I mean, I've diversified from TV to radio. Where I present my BBC radio show now on Sussex and Surrey. So it's really nice, isn't it, to get back together and find out what you're up to, because not only do I want to talk to you about life coaching, but also I know you've got a really interesting, very personal journey, but very interesting journey that hasn't broken you, thankfully. I'm very grateful for that. But just tell us first of all about what life coaching is, and why did you want to move, you know, from telly, you're doing quite well, and then you were working in another sort of film company, and then you kind of moved, didn't you, in a different direction?
Yeah, I did. So I was always, well, growing up, I actually had quite a lot of social anxiety. And if I knew people, if I was friends with them, I'd be pretty gregarious and outgoing. But if I didn't, then I'd get very nervous and shy. And I would never be the person to like introduce myself, and often have those, you know, when you go home, oh, I wish I'd said this, or I should have done that. Um, and so that was kind of a problem for me as a younger person. And I went on a round the world trip. Like it was after I've been working in TV for a bit. And I think I was, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it was like, oh, I need to take some time out to reflect on life. And during that time,
I think that's amazing. A lot of people think about these things and never ever do it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, well, I never, like, loads of people, or not loads of people, some people were doing, you know, after university, go traveling, and I didn't have any money after university. So I was always kind of a bit regretful, like envious of people that had that kind of experience. So after I was working, I had some money, and I decided, yeah, let's just visit some places that I'd always dreamt about, like Asia and South America. And during that trip, I took a hypnotherapy training, and that just blew my mind. I also did a meditation retreat, and I also went to the jungle, the Amazon in Peru, and lived with a tribe there. We did like an ayahuasca ceremony. I stayed in the jungle for like 10 days with this tribe. And I was really just like fascinated about, you know, healing and consciousness and different modalities that people use to kind of change their emotions and their mind and their lives. So that was the impetus of me kind of getting into this stuff. And then when I came back to the UK, a friend of mine who I'd known beforehand, I was talking to about everything, and she actually confided that she'd been raped, and that she had never been to the police about this, and it was affecting her on quite a bad basis. Like she had very unhealthy relationships with men, and she asked for my help. And at that point, I really, my training was minimum. I was not really qualified to deal with this kind of thing, but at the same time, it's someone that I really cared for. And I thought, if I don't help her, like, I don't know if she's going to talk to anyone ever, because it was something that was really difficult for her to speak about. And so I was like, right, I'm going to help her. I don't care. Like, I know that she's a wonderful person, and that all the problems that she's experiencing, I know she can get over these. So we did some work together. And it was pretty intense, you know. There was a lot of emotion there. There was a lot of guilt, and it was, it was very full on. But through that, she really changed. She started having more healthy relationships with men. Her relationship with her parents got better, and all this guilt and like suffering that was literally a daily thing for her. You know, she grew beyond that, and it wasn't like I was kind of surprised, because I was like, I literally have done one course, and then we've done this together, and I've seen the change in this woman. And she went to get some professional help, and then she said, actually, I think the work we did was better. Well, why don't you do this kind of thing? And so she helped me massively by that, because that, if she hadn't have said that, I don't know if I would have even considered this kind of stuff as a career path. And, you know, I'm not like specializing in helping people with that kind of extreme trauma, but it was when I saw like, oh, it can make a real difference to somebody's life, like literally change their whole life, you know, from being in unhealthy relationships to having good relationships with men. That's a big deal. And so that was a massive buzz. And after that, I was like, yeah, I really would love to just do something that was a bit more, that felt more meaningful to me personally than than what I was doing in the media.
Wow. I was not expecting that answer, I have to say. I didn't know. I knew you'd gone into it, but I didn't know what the catalyst of that
Yeah,
whole
that
thing was. And actually, that's really interesting and that must have been quite traumatic for you even, because there's a level of responsibility there.
there is, yeah,
And
massive.
also sometimes there is no separation between you and because it's your friend, it's not
Yeah,
somebody that you don't know. There's a lot more emotional investment, you know.
there
Um,
definitely was, yeah.
so
Yeah.
I mean, amazing, well done, and good for you. And also, obviously, that in return changed your life, didn't it? And I mean,
It did,
I'm a
yeah.
Reiki healer. Not many people know this, but I do Reiki, and I'm a Reiki healer. I don't do it for a living. I do it with friends and family and people that ask me to do it. And I always, with Reiki, you never give to receive, but by doing the Reiki, you do receive anyway. The good energy comes back to you because we're all connected via energy. So I do believe that when you do, even people call this karma as well, don't they? When you do a good deed for someone, something good happens to you. But I think when you do something without, what's the word, you know, without, well, if I do this for you, then you've got to do
Oh
that for me.
yeah, yeah,
I can't
yeah.
think of the name right now.
Like just, I know what you mean. I can't
You
think
know
of
what I
it
mean,
without the
right?
expectation of getting it, like something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's no expectations. There's
a
no kind of,
transactional kind of. Oh, I'm only going to do it if you do this thing. Yeah,
right, exactly. Or well, it could be something small like make me dinner or whatever. There's
yeah.
no rules attached to it. It's just an act of kindness, an act of, you know, you wanted to help your friend. And I think that's so amazing, David. And I actually feel really proud of you, even more so than I already was, to see how you're progressing in the world. And I love to see my friends doing well. But I know that also on top of that, more recently, you've had a massive hardship. And I know you went on to, before we go on down that road, I know that you've trained and you've gone into the life coaching thing a lot more, haven't you, than possibly you thought you would? Because when I spoke to you a little while ago, and this was quite a while ago, before you went to Thailand, you were doing hypnotherapy, and that's kind of where, and actually you did a bit on me, which was
I did.
amazing.
Yeah,
I've had hypnotherapy before, but what I like about you, David, is you're just so calm, and obviously you're a friend as well, and that makes it should feel wrong in a way to sort of like, there should almost feel like there kind of wants to be like a barrier there between you and you as David the hypnotherapist. But actually I found it really comforting. And yeah, it was really, I really enjoyed that session. But I know that I wanted to talk to you about this journey that you've been on, because it was quite emotional, I imagine, quite traumatic, but you survived, and that's the most important thing. And I'm sure, as with all these negative things that we experience throughout our lives, no matter how big or small, I mean, we have to learn from them, right? We have to try and find a way over the hurdle, because if we don't, like your friend that you mentioned earlier, if we let that barrier sit in the way of something good, or who we are meant to be, or what we're meant to be doing, we're only limiting ourselves. And there's all that thing about self-limiting beliefs and all of that stuff. So I know that you were going to Thailand.
yeah.
And it was this big adventure, and I think I bumped into you in town before you left, because you said, oh, I'm leaving, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then but I remember you know, being excited about this new journey. And we are going to focus more on what happened when you came back, but would you mind sharing a little bit about what happened to you on that journey, because it's quite incredible.
Yeah, so I'll give you a brief thing, because it was. So I went over to Thailand, and it was a big dream of mine to go live over in Asia. And at the time I was married as well, so my wife's ex-wife is Korean, and so the plan was we were going to go there, set up a business together, and also me working some of the wellness retreats there that I'd been doing interviews for when I was in the UK, and I'd taken a trip over and spoken to different places. And so this was a big thing, like, oh, I'm going to start a new life. And hey, Sammy here. Anyway, so I went there with full of expectations, and to cut a long story short, it all kind of went Pete Tong. The marriage kind of didn't really work out. The job that I'd been offered, there was a change in management that didn't work out. And so I had to basically start my own business and get my own visa, and also like deal with the whole divorce thing that while I was there, and just rebuild my life, like change my dream. Like the dream that I had was, boom, that was gone. So it was like, okay, I need to come up with a better plan or a different plan. And so I decided to move to Bangkok, and I was already doing the life coaching, but to do that 100% independently and start doing events and workshops there, which I was doing about, I'd say about three a month I was doing when I was in Bangkok, doing regular events with people in like different spaces on topics like creating a meaningful life, communication, body language, self-hypnosis. And that was really great. I loved it. It was very challenging though, because it was like you go to a different place, you have a very set idea of what life's going to be like, and then it just like, boom, everything's gone, and all the support network that I had in the UK was not there. But I really enjoyed it. You know, I think I had to become a better person to deal with all that stuff going on at the same time.
Oh my God. I don't know how you kept it together, I have to say. Hats off to you, because as you say, everything seemed to happen in that short space of time.
Yeah, it was like in the first sort of 3 months, everything imploded, and I was like,
oh, Dave has frozen. It's not a good time to freeze, Dave. That is really, oh no, we may have lost David. I'm hoping he'll come back. But he was just telling us about this dream he had, and it just, everything imploded. There he is. Don't know what happened, mate. Just as we were getting to the tough stuff, you disappeared.
Yeah.
But I was just wrapping things up. But I think as we've got a few people still here, shall we kind of try and wrap this up in 15 or so minutes? Because I don't want it to be too long for people. So there's a limit on Instagram as well.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah. Just wanted to create some dramatic suspense. So.
Oh my goodness, you really created dramatic suspense. And I told them a story about yesterday how a man was trying to jump off a bridge, and I had to peace, and so I was just filling with that story that I hadn't intended to tell, but it kind of, I don't know, it was talking about challenges and life's challenges and so on. But so thank you very much to everyone that has stayed with us, and to anyone that's joined right now. I'm Amanny Mo, this is Coffee and Convo, this is David Bailey, a life coach. We just started talking about what has happened to him in his personal journey, and then it cut off. Yes, Sammy, he's back in the room. Listen, tell us before we get another.
I didn't want to hear you this. Yeah, they tried to cut us off. Yeah.
But we're back.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Just at that moment, your life all came crashing down in Thailand. You then had to kind of recreate a new one, which is where we do. And then you decided to come back. And this is after you were tricked by someone, right? You were trying to get a visa and all sorts of things, and that didn't work out.
No, it did actually work out. I did get a visa. I didn't get tricked, thank goodness. Dave's worth waiting for, yeah.
Yes,
I like your style, Dave. The reason I came back was because of the whole COVID situation. I needed to renew my visa. So at the time, I thought I was just going to be able to come over to the UK, go to the embassy, take care of things, and then fly back within a month. But clearly clearly that isn't what happened. So,
No.
so yeah, things took a turn for the unexpected there.
Again, so like,
Yeah.
tell me, so the timeline of you leaving,
Mm.
then there was the breakdown bit, not your breakdown, but the
Yeah.
breakdown of your dream.
Mm.
That was how long, that period of time?
That was about I'd say it was in the first sort of 5 months that I arrived. Things just kind of went downhill from almost as soon as I got there. Things were different to how I'd expected. Certain promises weren't kept, and all the things that I'd wanted to do when I was going to Thailand, like working in a wellness retreat, setting up a business with my ex-wife, all of these things, and also just creating a life with her. That was part of the dream. All of those things were just slowly evaporating in front of my eyes, and I was like, okay, I need to do so. I can either like just go home and forget about this, or I need to do something about it. And so yeah, I decided to move to Bangkok, and start up on my own, and do some workshops and life coaching there
So that's kind of where you got to then. That was the part. But then what you're saying is, so then that was 3 months, wasn't it, that you were doing that for?
Yeah. So then I was in Bangkok for about a year and 2 months, roughly, around that sort of time period. Yeah.
No, God, that went really quick, man. I was like thinking it was 6 months or something.
No. Yeah, it was a bit longer than that.
Time.
Yeah.
Was it a culture shock for you? Did you enjoy it? Or was it kind of difficult? I mean, obviously you were going through a lot, going through a breakup of a marriage, going through like being almost, homeless, really.
Yeah, and I did actually get kicked. I remember when all this was going on, I then like got kicked out of my apartment, and it was like, you got 2 weeks. And I was in Malaysia when I got informed, and I couldn't get back because of my visa. And I was like, oh my God, when I go back to Bangkok, I've got about 3 days to find somewhere to live. I don't know this city. I'm like, going to be homeless. And yeah, so there was a lot going on there. Yeah. And it was, I've been to Thailand before, but it's still a culture shock. Especially Bangkok. It's a very intense place. Have you ever been there, Amanny?
I've never been. I do want to go though.
Yeah.
I haven't visited that side of Asia yet, so that's the part. There's many parts that I'd like to go to. But yeah, I would love to go. But I can imagine. I've been to Japan, but only briefly. I went there for a few days because my friend lived there, and I did a stopover, and that was like, what? That was crazy culture shock. That was extreme culture shock. But I am a traveller. I like travelling, and I'm not overwhelmed that easily. But I imagine, when you're living somewhere, it's not the same as being on holiday.
No.
You've got to make friends. You've got to forge a business. In this instance, with you had to forge a business. You had to have money coming in. How are you going to afford an apartment and stuff like that? So that's why I was sort of asking the question. But you liked it, you enjoyed it, and do you still want to go back then? Is that the plan?
Yeah, when because at the moment there's a very they're very strict there. They're not allowing any foreigners in. They've taken a very hardline approach to the whole thing. So still I'm not able to fly, but when they do eventually lift it, that's the plan to go back. Yeah.
And will you have stuff to go back to? Because obviously you spent a lot of time, you've invested a lot of time, I imagine financially as well, to get the business running, and then suddenly you've got to get out.
So it will. I still have a lot of contacts in Bangkok, and online I'm connecting with people, and I've started doing workshops and coaching online. So there is I still have the connections there, but I have been out physically from Bangkok for a while, so there will be a process of sort of rebuilding. But I'm fortunate that I have way more connections there than I did when I first moved, and I knew no one there. So yeah, there will be a period of starting again, but hopefully not it will be easier this time because I know more people and I understand the city a little bit more than when I first arrived.
Yeah. And I mean, just bringing things back to sort of where we started in a way, because I know you said when you were younger, you had a lot of social anxieties, you know, talking to people, meeting new people. You were fine with people that you knew, but
Yeah,
you were very, very shy and not as gregarious. And so, I mean, when you look back, so you've been through a lot to get to, we all go through stages of our lives. And then at one point or other, we look back and think, oh, you know, wow, what happened to that Amanny of 3 years
mm,
ago, or 10
yeah,
years ago, whatever it is. So I was just going to ask you, like, when you look, you've gone through a lot of changes in the last 2 years, a lot. And when you look back at that David from before that time,
mm,
do you see a completely different person? And what would you have said to that David back then? Do you know what I mean? The
yeah.
two.
Mm. I think well, there's a number of things. I think that the first thing it was that it's okay to try something and it not to work out like immediately. Like that failure is okay. It doesn't just because you try something and it doesn't immediately work doesn't mean uh, that is like the end of the world. And just the ability to do something that is maybe a bit scary and
Mm,
try your hardest. Like that is the value because you grow through that, you become braver. And you know the result, of course everybody wants the result, but it's the willingness to do these things that is the growth point, and you become a stronger human being from that. So
mm,
I would have said that to myself, because I think that's that fear of, oh, what if I do it and I look silly or it doesn't work out. That was definitely holding me back. And so yeah, just have a more kind of playful, let's try this out, an experiment. Life's a big experiment. Let's try it out. If it's not working, okay, just do something different. And also, it's not like, this is probably not a popular thing to say, but I think sometimes, especially with anxieties and even depression, we tend to make everything about us. Like everyone's, you know, if everyone's looking at me, everyone's thinking this about me. And like the reality is everybody's got their own life. They're busy. They're doing their own thing and they don't really care. Like they're not like out there, like critiquing and judging you. And if they are, so what? They don't really know you. Like unless you're sort of Beyonce, the chances are that most people are not like just focused and fixated on, you know, every time you do something. But we kind of tend to believe that we're like the center of the universe sometimes. And that for me, when I had that more social anxiety, it was like, you know, every response or someone didn't want to talk or, you know, everything, oh, it must have been about me. And it's like, no. Like other people have their own lives. Guess what? I'm not that important. Like, so like, don't make it all about me. Like, you know, just get out my own way and let's have some fun. So that would be some advice that I'd say.
That's really, really good advice. And I think that a lot of people, even people that don't have anxieties, think that everything is about them. You know, I think it sometimes can be a natural
It is,
thing.
yeah. It is, yeah.
Put yourself out there, you know, you think, oh, I put myself out there. And, you know, I mean, just to give you an example, just to finish off before we play our game,
Yeah.
when I took up hula hooping, I was just doing it during lockdown to stay fit because
Yeah,
I don't have
I've
a
seen it. Very cool.
garden. You know, and I just
Yeah.
thought, you know what, I'll get a hula hoop and just hoop because it's really good exercise, right? And I can do it in my living room if the weather is crap outside.
Mm.
I mean, it took me a while to master it, but then once I was just loving it, and then my friends were
You're a
like,
hula
oh my
master.
God, you're so funny, like you're making me smile, you're cheering me up, da da da. Oh, I'm gonna get one. And I was like, what? And then I had friends saying, can you do like little videos online live? So, you know, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna look really stupid, I'm gonna look really
Mm.
silly. And I'm a really confident person. It's nothing to do with confidence. It was more like, oh, this was just my thing that I was doing. You know, I didn't expect anyone else to enjoy it half as much as I do.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a thing. And I was doing, you know, live classes with people during lockdown. And, you know, it was just like so funny and so heartwarming. And that little thing, that little tiny thing, taught
Yeah.
me a lesson as well, because as confident as I am, I could stand in the middle of the street and shout and laugh and say something ridiculous. I have absolutely no shame whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't feel anxiety like that.
Yeah.
But I understand and appreciate people that do, because I work with them as well. I teach sometimes as well. But, you know, it was that thing of, oh, I don't want to look silly in front of people. Or what if I drop the hoop? Like, they think I'm really expert. And if I drop the... And then I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. So I used to drop the hoop and I'd say, you know what, guys, don't worry, just pick it up. Let's start again. And, you know, and maybe that was what people liked. I'm not sure. I guess I'll never know. But there is that thing in life. And I think this has taught me something about life, the hula hoop. And it sounds ridiculous to equate a hula hoop with life. But it just made me think, you know what? Sometimes we do drop the ball, we drop the hoop, we drop our A game, right, in life. But we've got to bloody well pick ourselves up, because nobody else is going to do it. Like, I can't hoop if I don't pick up the hoop and stick it back on me and do it. Like, it's not magically going to stay on. I have to make it stay there, you know. So there's a lot of sort of metaphors, a lot of metaphysical stuff that came out of that hula hoop and lockdown, which I'm still grateful for. And I'm sure, like, even in the worst, most grim moments when you're in a hostel in the middle of nowhere, like trying to get back to your life and all of that, you must have felt the same. Like, I can do this. I'm going to grab it and do it.
Well, yeah, I love the metaphysical hula hoop. I think that's the title of your book, but I love that.
Yeah, it needs to be, right, David? We'll have a conversation about this later.
We should do that.
It is. It is.
Absolutely. Like, I remember one time when I was in Malaysia, like on the border. I'd just been rejected my visa, and I thought I'd been ripped off, and I'd given a lot of money in cash, and like I was also paying the solicitor in the UK, and I didn't, because of the time difference, there was no one to call. The guy wasn't, my Thai lawyer wasn't answering my phone, and I realized, like, no one really cares. Like, this sounds, there's a good point to this, but I was like, you know, feeling a bit down, and I was like, look, no one really cares about this more than me. I'm the person the buck stops at. And so if I want to make something better here, it is down to me. And like all of these, even if I had to go back to the UK, or if I did get ripped off, or I had to like work to get some more money back together, like it was going to be a minor inconvenience. Realistically, I wasn't like escaping a war zone or anything. I was just like, oh no, my plans are not working out, and things are different to how I expected. And I was like, look, this is just an inconvenience. I want to do it, and you know, if it's going to be difficult, so be it. But I think like just being able to see it as an inconvenience, because you know, we're very fortunate. Like, thank goodness we live in a very you know, relatively safe country. And the problems that we face are just usually like, oh, I wanted to do this thing and it hasn't quite worked out the way I thought. Okay, well, let's reassess and do something different, or do something about that. It isn't like life or death, although it can feel that way. It can very much feel like that. But it was just like, okay, look, this is really annoying. It's not what I wanted, not how I expected it, but yeah, it's an inconvenience. Let's do it.
But I guess in a way you're rational, and the guy that nearly jumped off the bridge yesterday when we were standing there, as I said a bit earlier while we're waiting for you to come back, it is such a fine line between that choice. He had a choice there. He made his choice to jump up and scare the living daylights out of everybody standing there. But then equally, with people trying to talk to him and coax him down, he then made that choice that today's not the day. I hope it's never his day like that. But it's, you know, it's a frightening thing, but because our mental health, our mental well-being is so often neglected, and yet it's really, really important to maintain it. You don't just drive a car and not maintain it. You know, you have to maintain the car to keep it working. That's the point, right? So we're just like a car, and we have to maintain to, you know, and we could talk about this all day. But what the story I wanted to kind of get from you was, which is what we've discussed, is, you know, even in your worst kind of adversity, the thing that you did was you rationalized it, as hard as that probably was, and then you came through it the other side, and you are back here for now with that hope of going back. And the thing about Coffee and Convo is I like to present these stories and ideas to people through my wonderful guests, because we all go through these things, these difficult trials, these challenges or whatever, but we can come out the other side smelling of roses. And I think you do smell of roses now, Dave.
Hey, you smell pretty good too.
I'm sure you do. But thank you for sharing that story, because I know it's hard, and I know it probably took you back to that moment, and I'm very grateful that you did.
And can I just say one thing, because I think it is important, specific on this topic. It's like a lot of the things we scare are just our own emotions. And I think if anybody's in a difficult situation or they're overwhelmed, it's being able to just be willing to feel through your emotions. Like, it can feel very frightening, because if you're scared or you're anxious or you're depressed or just worried, but your emotions, it's natural to have emotions, even if they're not pleasant ones. And I like what you said at the beginning about, you know, the being willing to feel, you know, some discomfort, because if we're willing to do that, then there's almost nothing that we can't do, because most of what is getting in the way is like unwillingness just to say, okay, this thing's kind of scary, or this thing doesn't feel good because it didn't work out the way I expected. Just be with the feeling, feel through it, and then take steps towards whatever the outcome. And so I think that like the man that's trying to jump off the bridge, he's trying to run away from whatever his emotions are more than the situation, because like, unless he's got a hit out on him, probably it's just he's got some bad stuff going on in his life that he
doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what to do. And but just if he's willing, or if anybody's just willing to be with their emotions and feel through them, like most situations in life we can work through. And so I think that's really important to mention. A lot of people are scared of their own emotions.
Nicely done, David. Right, listen, we've got to play this game. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm not going to trivialise what we've been talking about. It's very important. But I like to end on a positive note, and this is the way we do it. Quid pro quo. No explanation needed. It's a quick fire round. And also, we've got to be really careful, because Instagram is going to cut us off any minute now.
Yeah, we're too hot for Instagram.
Yeah, so we've got to go for it. Ready? Let's do it. Okay, here we go. Random questions I cannot control. I have sort of controlled, but you know, I don't know what's coming out of here. Oh, this is a really nice one, and I've never been able to ask this question before. Is there someone you would like to give a shout out to? Someone that's helped you along your way or on your journey? It can be anybody from...
Yeah, I think my parents have been really like supportive in you know, even if they don't necessarily understand what I'm doing, but they've definitely been a support for me, and they have that love for me. So I think that I want to shout out to my parents.
That's amazing. Well, I'm going to say my teachers, because from when I was young, I always had amazing teachers. So I have to say thank you to all of them, because quite honestly, I don't know where I would have been without them. Have you got an unsung hero on your journey? You're getting all these like really deep ones.
They're pretty philosophical.
You know, like an unsung hero, someone that just showed you an act of kindness, maybe a stranger. That's what I mean by unsung, not somebody you know necessarily. That moment of darkness.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a pretty deep question.
Yeah, these are normally really stupid, these questions. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing some deep ones as
yeah.
well. I'll
Um,
start, if you want, just while you're thinking, I'll
yeah.
start with one of mine. And
Okay.
there's been lots and lots of moments, but
Yeah.
I always think it's the person when you're feeling really crappy, which doesn't always happen often, but if I feel really crappy and someone just smiles at me or says
Mm.
hello, that for me, that little tiny little thing can just give me a little bit of a upper, just makes you feel like alive again and not so absorbed in whatever it is that you're going through. So that's my unsung hero. A
Okay.
stranger who
Yeah, yeah.
smiles.
So someone that I just springs to mind. I remember when I was flying to Korea, and I was chatting to the guy next to me on the flight, and I got off, and the bus I needed to get, it was like leaving straight away, but I didn't have any Korean money, and this guy very kindly, we
Oh,
just paid for me. Like it was about 20 quid or something, and I was just very touched by like how generous and sweethearted this guy was, that I'd well, we had been talking for some time, but he didn't have to do that. He could have just said, "Oh, there's the ATM.
you could have
Uh,
said, see
get
ya.
get the next one, mate."
On the
But
bus.
he was very kind, and I was like, "Oh man, that's real. That's just like that kind of hospitality and love that you can get from a complete stranger."
Complete stranger.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the final question, dude.
Hmm.
Classic car or, like a fancy schmack? What would be your ideal? Would you like a classic car or like a really snazzy Lambo or, I don't know, some snazzy up-to-date car?
Hmm.
If that was
Yeah.
the choice.
I probably the fancy the fancy Lambo.
Oh my God, I'm so shocked, Dave. I would have thought you would have gone for the proper classic car.
Well,
I would go for a classic car every time if
yeah,
I
if
could.
I had a butler, I'd go, and someone to drive me, I'd go for the classic. But my driving's not great, so like I'd have to I
Oh,
wanted the modern kind of easy steering kind of vibe. But yeah, if you throw in a driver, I'll go for the classic.
amazing. I love that. Throw in the driver.
Yeah,
Yes, boss,
let's
I
upgrade.
will. David is saying Ford Cortina Mark III every time. Bless him. Yeah, he loves his Ford Cortinas. Listen, thank you very much for playing Quid Pro Quo with me. And thank you very much, David Bailey, life coach, for joining us here on Coffee and Convo. I appreciate it. I love your sharing. And it's hopefully, although we had some technical hitches in the middle, I'm glad that Instagram hasn't literally, because it counts you down and then
Yeah.
cuts you off.
Okay.
So,
We're back. Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't get to that stage. Thank you so much. And before you go back to Thailand, it would be really
Mm.
nice maybe to catch up with you in a few months' time and see what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh,
Good
thank
luck with
you.
all the online stuff, and thank you. Really appreciate it. I'll put a link to your page a bit later on up here as well. So thanks, David.
Oh, thank you, Amanny.
Oh. Yay, my pleasure, my pleasure. What another amazing David Bailey there, life coach. And just before that, we had Karen Dobrez, who is an elected director of Lewis Football Club. It was the only club in the world paying men and women equally up until recently, when a South African football team also got involved, which is amazing work. It's been absolutely fabulous. I'm always enlightened by these conversations. I hope you are too. I literally love to open people's minds and hearts to new things and new stories. Everyone's got a story to tell. If you know anybody that you think would be really interesting for Coffee and Convo, please do get in touch. You can either get in touch with me right here on Instagram or on Facebook, or I'm also on Twitter as well. It's just Coffee and Convo with Amanny Mo. That's where I am. I'm Amanny Mo, obviously, in case you didn't know. It's rhyming. What's going on? Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week ahead. I'll be right back, right here, same place, same time, 1 o'clock on Wednesdays, with some more guests for you. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please do like, share, and everything else. And I will post today's interviews on Facebook within sort of 24, 48 hours. So if you're a Facebooker, you prefer that's where you can find the interviews. Thank you very much, you all, for joining in, and I'll see you again next Wednesday. Adios. Ciao for now.